Commander Du Young stood at the front of his ship's bridge, looking at the blue planet through the large viewing screen. His antennae twitched with excitement as the strange energy readings from Earth appeared on his display again. After 20 years of space exploration, he had never seen anything like it. "Commander, the readings make no sense," Science Officer Jai Yun said from her station. She moved her fingers across her screen, trying to understand the data. One moment Earth looks like a developing world, and the next moment we detect advanced energy patterns. Do Young walked over to Jai Yun's station. The Commonwealth had visited hundreds of worlds, but Earth was different. Most planets either had advanced technology or they didn't. Earth somehow showed both signs at once. "Show me the latest scan," he ordered. His white uniform reflected the soft blue light from the screens around him. The bridge crew, all members of the highly advanced Stellar Commonwealth, worked quietly at their stations. Jai Yun displayed a large map of Earth's solar system. "Look here, Commander. Their space stations appear simple, using basic solar power and chemical rockets. But then we detect these energy spikes." She pointed to several bright spots on the screen. "These energy patterns suggest technology far beyond simple rockets. Could our sensors be wrong?" Du Young asked. In his 20 years of exploration, the Commonwealth sensors had never made a mistake. "No, sir. We've checked them 3 times, Jai Yun replied. She brushed her silver hair back from her face, revealing the metallic scales that were common to their species. "There's something strange about Earth. They're either hiding their true capabilities or what?" Du Young leaned closer to the screen. "Or they have technology we don't understand," Jai Yun finished quietly. Cultural specialist Tahoe joined them at the station. His dark uniform marked him as part of the diplomatic team. "Commander, I've been studying their public broadcasts. The humans present themselves as a young species just beginning to explore space. But I've noticed patterns that don't match this image." Do Young turned to face him. "Explain." "Their entertainment shows often contain ideas about space travel that they claim are science fiction. But some of these ideas describe advanced concepts that even we haven't mastered yet. It's as if they're hiding their knowledge in plain sight." The bridge fell silent as a new alert appeared on the main screen. A small ship had launched from Earth and was heading their way. It looked simple, just metal and basic thrusters. But those strange energy readings were coming from it too. "They're hailing us," Communications Officer Hansol announced. "The message is in perfect Commonwealth language." Do Young straightened his uniform. This was supposed to be a simple first contact with a developing world. Instead, he felt like he was solving a puzzle. How did they know the Commonwealth language? Why did their ships look so simple while giving off such powerful energy readings? "Put them on screen," he ordered. The viewing screen lit up to show a human woman in a simple blue uniform. She smiled at them, showing white teeth, a friendly gesture according to their research on human behavior. "Greetings, Commonwealth vessel," she said in their language. "I am Admiral Kim Hae-Newell of Earth's United Space Command. We've been expecting you." Do Young's antennae twitched again, this time with surprise. They had taken great care to approach Earth secretly. How had the humans detected them? And why did they seem so calm about meeting aliens for the first time? He had a feeling that everything the Commonwealth thought they knew about primitive Earth was about to change. The small Earth ship guided the Commonwealth vessel toward a docking station near the moon. Commander Do Young watched through the main screen as they approached. From far away, the station looked simple, just metal and glass. But as they got closer, his crew's instruments detected more of those strange energy patterns. "Commander," Jai Yun called from her station. "The station's outer shell appears to be changing its structure at the molecular level." Do Young walked to her screen. The station's surface was shifting slightly, creating a perfect dock for their ship. He had never seen anything like it. "Are they using nanobots?" he asked. "No, sir." Jai Yun's silver scales reflected the light from her screen. "The material itself is changing. It's as if the whole station is alive. Taiho stood nearby, recording everything for the Commonwealth's records. Their broadcasts show this station as a simple research facility. They call it Lunar Base 1, but these readings suggest it's far more advanced than they claim. The Commonwealth ship docked smoothly with the station. Du Young led his team to the airlock. They wore their formal white uniforms, decorated with the silver symbols of their rank. As the most advanced civilization in their part of space, they wanted to make a good impression on these developing humans. The airlock opened. Admiral Kim Hae-Newell waited for them with 2 other humans. They wore simple blue uniforms without any fancy decorations. Du Young noticed they didn't carry any weapons. "Welcome to Lunar Base 1," Admiral Kim said with a smile. "Please follow me." They walked through corridors that looked plain and functional. But Jia-Yun kept looking at her handheld scanner with growing surprise. "These walls," she whispered to Du Young, "they're made of materials that shouldn't exist. The atomic structure keeps changing." They entered a large room with windows looking out at Earth. The view was beautiful, but Du Young was more interested in what he saw inside. The room had several ships, each one small enough to fit in their cargo bay. They looked simple, but those strange energy readings were stronger here. "These are our training vessels," Admiral Kim explained. "Would you like to see inside one?" "Training vessels?" Du Young asked. If these were just for training, what did their real ships look like? They approached the nearest ship. It was silver and shaped like a water drop. No visible engines, no weapons, not even a door that he could see. Admiral Kim touched the hull gently, and a section of it simply disappeared, creating an entrance. Inside, there was one seat that seemed to be made of the same material as the hull. No controls, no screens, nothing that looked like a way to fly the ship. "How does it work?" Jia-Yun asked, her scientific curiosity obvious in her voice. Admiral Kim sat in the seat. The inside of the ship lit up with soft blue light. Holographic displays appeared in the air around her. The ship connects directly with the pilot's mind. It becomes an extension of our thoughts. Du Young tried to hide his shock. The Commonwealth had been working on neural interface technology for centuries without success. These humans had not only made it work, but put it in their training ships. "Admiral," he said carefully, "I must ask, why do you hide your true level of technology?" Admiral Kim stood up and smiled again. "Commander Du Young, in our experience, it's better to be underestimated. We find it leads to more peaceful interactions." As they walked back to the main room, Du Young realized something important. His people had come here thinking they would help guide a developing civilization. Instead, they were the ones who had much to learn. The meeting room on Lunar Base 1 had a large window showing Earth below. Commander Du Young sat with his team on one side of the table, while Admiral Kim and her staff sat on the other. The walls seemed to glow with a soft light that came from nowhere in particular. "Let us be direct," Du Young said. "We came here believing we would find a developing civilization. Instead, we have seen technology that surpasses our own. Why have you stayed hidden?" Admiral Kim placed her hands on the table. The surface rippled like water where she touched it, creating a detailed hologram of the galaxy between them. Humanity learned long ago that showing off advanced technology often leads to conflict. We prefer to let others think we are simple while we watch and learn. Jia-Yun couldn't take her eyes off the table's surface. "This material, it responds to thought like your ships do." "Yes," Admiral Kim replied. "Most of our technology is based on what we call adaptive materials. They change and grow based on our needs." Tahoe, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. "We've noticed that humans often hide important information in what they call entertainment. Your movies and books about space travel. They're not really fiction, are they?" Admiral Kim smiled. "They're a way to share ideas without drawing attention. Some of our best scientists write what others think is just imagination." A soft chime filled the room. A new hologram appeared, showing a massive ship leaving Earth's atmosphere. It looked different from the training vessels they had seen earlier. This one was clearly built for deep space travel. That's the Star Wanderer, Admiral Kim explained. Our newest exploration vessel. We're preparing for our first journey beyond our galaxy. Do-Yum's antennae twitched in surprise. The Commonwealth had never even considered traveling to other galaxies. The technology needed for such a journey seemed impossible. Admiral, Do-Young said carefully, the Commonwealth would be very interested in trading technology with Earth. We have much to offer. Do you? Admiral Kim asked kindly. We have been monitoring your civilization for some time. Your technology is impressive, but it follows a different path than ours. Jai-yun leaned forward. Different how? You build machines and try to make them more advanced. We grow our technology and let it evolve with us. Admiral Kim touched the table again. This time, the hologram showed the history of human space travel, from simple rockets to their current ships that seem to be alive. Would you be willing to share some of this knowledge? Do-Young asked. That depends, Admiral Kim replied. We're not interested in trading just to gain more technology. We want to know if you're ready to learn a completely new way of thinking. Are you willing to admit that everything you know about science might be wrong? The room fell silent. Do-Young looked at his team. Their entire civilization was built on the idea that they knew the right way to advance technology. Now they had to choose, stick to their beliefs, or admit they might be wrong. We are willing to learn, Do-Young said finally. His words carried the weight of his entire civilization's future. Admiral Kim nodded, clearly pleased. Then let's begin with something simple. Would you like to see how we grow our ships? Admiral Kim led the Commonwealth team to a large chamber deep inside Lunar Base 1. The room was filled with what looked like pools of silver liquid. Commander Do-Young noticed that the liquid moved on its own, forming shapes before dissolving back into the pools. This is where we grow our ships, Admiral Kim explained. The material you see is the base form of our adaptive technology. We call it the living metal. Commander Lee Sunmei stood near one of the pools. She was the captain chosen to work with the Commonwealth team. Her uniform was as simple as Admiral Kim's, but she carried herself with quiet confidence. Each ship starts as a small amount of living metal, Sunmei said. She reached into the pool and lifted a handful of the silver liquid. Instead of dripping, it formed a perfect sphere in her palm. The metal connects with its pilot's mind, learning what shape and abilities will work best for them. Jai-yun moved closer, her scanner working constantly. How long does it take to grow a ship? A training vessel takes about 1 day, Sunmei replied. A deep space ship like mine takes about a week. The metal needs time to develop all its systems. Do-Young watched as Sunmei placed the sphere back in the pool. The liquid rippled, and suddenly a small model of a ship rose from the surface. It looked like an elegant silver bird. This will be your training ship, Sunmei said. It's forming itself based on what it learned from our brief contact. Would you like to connect with it? Do-Young looked at Admiral Kim, who nodded encouragingly. He stepped forward and reached toward the small ship. The moment his hand touched it, he felt a gentle presence in his mind. It's alive, he whispered. In a way, Sunmei explained. The living metal is both technology and life. It thinks, learns, and grows, but it needs a pilot to give it purpose. Taiho was taking notes quickly. This challenges everything we thought we knew about technology. The Commonwealth builds machines to serve us. You create life to work with you. Admiral Kim smiled. That's why we wanted to be sure you were ready to learn. This isn't just about new technology. It's about a new way of seeing the universe. The small ship in the pool grew larger, taking on its final form. It was about the size of their Commonwealth shuttle now, gleaming silver in the room's light. A door appeared in its side, opening smoothly. Commander Do-Young, Sunmei said, would you like to try flying it? Don't worry. The living metal will guide you through the process. Do-Young looked at his team. Jai-yun nodded eagerly, her scientific curiosity obvious. Tahoe was still taking notes, but he looked up and smiled encouragingly. "Yes," Du Young said. "I would like to try." As he walked toward the ship, he realized that this was more than just a technology exchange. This was the beginning of a complete change for his civilization. The Commonwealth would never be the same after learning about Earth's living metal. The ship seemed to welcome him as he stepped inside. A seat formed perfectly to fit his body, and soft lights came alive around him. Through the mental connection, he could feel the ship's eagerness to fly. It was time to learn how humans had mastered space travel in a way the Commonwealth had never imagined possible. Science Officer Jai Yun spent 3 days studying the Earth vessel assigned to their team. Commander Lee Sunmai had given them access to what she called a standard patrol ship, but everything Jai Yun discovered showed that even Earth's basic ships were far beyond Commonwealth technology. She sat in the ship's research lab with Tahoe, looking at data on a screen that floated in the air. The screen was made of the same living metal as the rest of the ship, forming and reforming as needed. "Look at these readings," Jai Yun said to Tahoe. "The ship's hull doesn't just change shape. It can create new elements if needed, elements that shouldn't exist." Tahoe looked up from his notes. "That matches what I learned from their historical records. Humans stopped using the old periodic table centuries ago. They found ways to make new elements that are stable and useful." Commander Du Young entered the lab. He had spent the morning practicing with their new training ship. The living metal had taught him how to fly using only his thoughts, but he still had much to learn. "What have you found?" he asked. Jai Yun displayed more data on the floating screen. "Sir, this ship breaks at least 12 laws of physics as we understand them. The quantum communication system alone should be impossible, but they use it to talk instantly across vast distances. And that's not all," Tahoe added. "The ship's computer isn't a computer as we know it. It's a network of living metal threads that think and solve problems like a living brain. They call it a neural matrix." Do Yun watched as the screen changed shape to show them a view inside the ship's walls. Silvery threads moved like flowing water, carrying information faster than any Commonwealth computer could process. "Commander Lee Sunmai told me this morning that this is one of their older ships," Du Young said quietly. "It's been in service for 20 Earth years." Jai Yun's scales flickered with surprise. 20 years? But the technology looks brand new. The living metal shows no signs of age or wear. "That's because it heals itself," a voice said from the doorway. They turned to see Sunmai entering the lab. "The ship repairs any damage and updates its systems automatically. It grows stronger and smarter over time. Like a living thing," Tahoe said with understanding. Sunmai nodded. "Exactly. Your civilization builds machines that wear out and need replacement. We grow ships that live and evolve with their crews. Some of our oldest vessels are now so advanced that even we don't fully understand how they work." Do Young thought about the Commonwealth's pride in their technology. They had thought themselves so advanced, ready to guide younger civilizations. But Earth had taken a completely different path, creating something that worked with nature instead of trying to control it. "There's something else you should see," Sunmai said. She touched the wall, and a new section of the lab appeared. "This ship doesn't just patrol space, it explores reality itself." The Commonwealth team watched in amazement as Sunmai demonstrated how the ship could detect and interact with parallel dimensions. This wasn't just advanced technology. This was something that would change their understanding of the universe forever. The warning came without any sound. The walls of the Earth ship suddenly turned dark silver, and Commander Lee Sunmai's face became serious. Commander Du Young, who had been learning more about the ship's systems, felt the change in the air. "3 Commonwealth ships have just appeared near the moon," Sunmai said. "But they're not responding to our signals. Something is wrong." Jai Yun checked her scanner. "Those are Crimson Fleet vessels. They must have followed us here." Her voice shook slightly. The Crimson Fleet was a group of raiders who had broken away from the Commonwealth years ago. The floating screens around them showed 3 large red ships moving toward Earth. They were the most powerful warships the Commonwealth had ever built, covered in weapons and heavy armor. "We should warn Earth's defense forces," Du Young said quickly. He didn't want his people's problems to harm their new friends. Sun Ma smiled slightly. Earth noticed them long before they arrived. "Watch." The screen showed the Crimson Fleet ships getting closer. They were charging their weapons, ready to attack. But something strange was happening to space around them. The stars seemed to bend and twist. "What's happening?" Taiho asked, taking notes even in this dangerous moment. "Earth's defense grid is activating," Sun Ma explained. "We don't build weapons like yours. We change space itself." The largest Crimson Fleet ship fired its main weapon at the moon base. The energy beam, powerful enough to destroy a small city, simply disappeared halfway to its target. The space around the ships started to fold like paper. "The living metal in our defense satellites can reshape reality," Sun Ma said calmly. "Your raiders are now finding themselves in a very small pocket of space where their weapons don't work properly." Do Young watched in amazement as the mighty Crimson Fleet ships seemed to shrink, caught in a bubble of twisted space. Their weapons fired, but the energy just curved back toward them, trapped in the strange fold of reality. "We don't want to hurt them," Sun Ma added. "Once they calm down, we'll return them to normal space. Perhaps then they'll be ready to talk." Jai-Yun's scanner couldn't make sense of what was happening. "This is impossible. You're changing the basic rules of physics." "No," Sun Ma corrected gently. "We're working with physics in ways your people haven't discovered yet. The universe has many rules you haven't learned." The Crimson Fleet ships, now looking very small in their bubble of twisted space, stopped firing their weapons. A message appeared on the screens. They were ready to surrender. "Your most powerful warships," Taiho said quietly, "beaten without Earth firing a single shot." Do Young realized that everything he had thought about warfare, about power, about his civilization's place in the universe, had just changed forever. Earth hadn't just created better technology. They had found a completely different way to exist in space. In the main conference room of Lunar Base 1, Commander Du Young sat with his team, watching the Crimson Fleet ships being escorted away by Earth vessels. The raiders who had once terrorized Commonwealth space now looked small and harmless, their mighty warships reduced to mere toys by Earth's technology. Admiral Kim entered the room with Commander Lee Sun-mei. They carried with them a small silver sphere of living metal, placing it on the conference table. "The Crimson Fleet captains have agreed to return to Commonwealth space," Admiral Kim announced. "They've also provided interesting information. It seems your government has been searching for advanced weapons technology to maintain control over your territory." Do Young lowered his head slightly. "Yes, the Commonwealth believed that superior weapons would ensure peace." "And how has that worked?" Sun Ma asked gently. "It led to the creation of the Crimson Fleet," Taiho answered. "They stole our best warships and used them against us." Jai-Yun touched the silver sphere on the table. It responded to her, forming small patterns under her fingers. "Your way is different. You don't build weapons at all. We learned long ago that trying to control space through force only leads to more violence," Admiral Kim explained. "Instead, we learned to work with the universe itself. The living metal helps us shape reality in ways that make weapons unnecessary." Do Young looked at the sphere. How many other civilizations know about Earth's true capabilities? "Only those who have shown they're ready to learn," Sun Ma replied. "Like you have. Your response to discovering our technology has proven that your people can change their way of thinking." Admiral Kim nodded. "That's why we'd like to offer you this gift." She gestured to the sphere. "This is a seed of living metal, enough to grow one ship. Not a warship, but something that will help your people understand there are better ways to explore space." The sphere floated up from the table, spinning slowly in the air. Du Young could feel it reaching out to him mentally, showing him glimpses of what it could become. "The Commonwealth's entire philosophy of technology will need to change," he said quietly. Yes, Admiral Kim agreed. But change can be good. Your civilization has great potential. You just needed to see that there are other paths to follow. Jai-yun stood up excitedly. The living metal is showing me designs, ways to convert our existing ships into hybrid vessels that can work with this new technology. That's right, Sun Mai said with a smile. It will help you transition gradually. Your people don't have to abandon everything they know. They just have to be willing to learn new ways of thinking. Do Young looked out the window at Earth, glowing blue and peaceful below them. His mission had been to find new civilizations to guide and teach. Instead, his people would be the ones learning. The Commonwealth would never be the same, and that was exactly what they needed. John walked into the old building. It was dark inside. There were strange noises coming from upstairs. He felt scared, but he knew he had to keep going. He promised Sarah he would find her missing locket. It was special to her. He slowly climbed the creaky wooden stairs. The noises got louder. His heart beat fast. At the top of the stairs was a door. Light shone from under it. He reached for the doorknob with a shaky hand. Suddenly, the door flew open. A tall figure stood there. John gasped and stepped back. The figure moved into the light. John was shocked. It was Sarah's mean boss, Mr. Peterson. Well, Mr. Peterson said with an evil grin. Look who it is. Sarah's little boyfriend. Snooping around where you shouldn't be. John tried to look brave. Where is Sarah's locket? I know you took it. Give it back. Mr. Peterson laughed. It was not a nice laugh. Foolish boy. You should not have come here. I have big plans for that locket. And now, I can't let you leave. He reached into his jacket and pulled something out. John's eyes went wide. It was a gun. He turned to run, but his feet slipped. He fell down the stairs, tumbling over and over. Everything went black. When John woke up, he was tied to a chair. His head hurt. He looked around. He was in a small room with no windows. Mr. Peterson stood nearby. I warned you, Mr. Peterson said. Now you'll have to stay here until I finish my plan. Don't worry, you'll see your precious Sarah again if she pays the ransom. John struggled against the ropes. It was no use. He was trapped. He closed his eyes. Please, Sarah, he thought to himself. Please find me, before it's too late. To be continued.